I mean, guys, the talk around Jonathan David has all been too quiet lately. This should be a loud conversation of what Jonathan David is currently doing with Lille in Ligue 1 right now. With 8 matches to go in their regular season, he is very much in the Golden Boot race right now. Does he have what it takes, do you think, Kev, to maybe make some noise in the final month of this season and dethrone Kylian Mbappe of the Golden Boot title in France?
Well, in a word, yes, of course he does. I think it's got to be an exciting time for Jonathan David right now. I think he's got to look at these last few games of the season, or the last part of the season now, for him to go get a goal every game. That's got to be his target. I'm sure that's going to be the case, Julian, isn't it? Targeting every week, scoring every week, and you're giving yourself a chance. One thing that you just mentioned there, Kelcey, I like, not so much talk around him. I think that's a good thing for him, Julian, to be honest with you, because last season we were at the stage where he seemed to be mentioned within every club. He was on the radar for every club. We know he's on the radar for every club, but realistically, he's not going to go to probably one of the top clubs. But I like the fact that it's a little bit low-key and there's not too much talk around him. Get on with your business, score the goals, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, fly under the radar was probably the best-case scenario for a guy like Jonathan David. I mean, we've seen him when you have all these teams next to his names, like the Arsenals and the Man U's and whatnot. But
it's too much noise,
yeah,
isn't it?
And I think so. And I think he probably doesn't, live up to the pressure, by achieving those teams. But based on what he's been doing, under the low key, he does a very good job. He needs to keep scoring. He finishes the season now top scorer for Ligue 1. Now he comes in this conversation of where is he going to end up, right? And I think, in my eyes, a guy like him, can make the jump to a top 4 league in terms of his next move.
Yeah. Let's dig into that then. I mean, like, what he's doing is absolutely remarkable. It is under the radar, but what is his ceiling, not only as his potential as a striker, but what is his ceiling for his next move then, Jules?
Yeah, I definitely think it's a team outside of Liga, and I'm looking at Bundesliga and Serie A as my first choices. A team that's involved in the Champions League, Red Bull Leipzig, for instance, Borussia Dortmund could definitely suit him, and I think that's where he needs to prove himself. We've seen him do it at the Liga for Lille. He's very comfortable. There's 3 seasons in now. He's pretty much been their top scorer year after year, but I think he's proven himself at this level. Now, if he wants to make the jumps to, the Man U's and all these big names that we've heard, I think he needs to prove himself, Kev, at a division where you're playing at Bundesliga. Serie A would be even another division. I think that suits him. Lazio, Roma, those type of teams. But then scoring and proving himself at that level, then we could start talking about the top teams in the world.
Yeah, I'd say that as well. I'd love to see him go into the Premier League, but it wouldn't necessarily be, as you say, Julian, Manchester United, Manchester City. There was talk of Arsenal last year that had a big interest in him, and they're going to sign Gabriel Jesus, don't they? So that puts that sort of transfer out of the way for him now. But if he did go to one of the clubs that you spoke about there, I could see Dortmund. I could see that being absolutely a perfect move for him. I would say I could see him scoring goals in the Bundesliga. I could see him producing week in, week out. And as you say, Champions League football thrown into the mix as well, continuing his progress. It's about that next step and the progression for him. That next step, I'd feel, would be someone like Borussia Dortmund, yeah.
He's known as the Iceman. That's what his nickname is amongst the national team, fan supporters. But is there one constructive criticism that maybe the mentality needs to get a little bit stronger and say, hey, this is my ball? We've seen it when he goes to the penalty spot at the World Cup. He should have probably taken that in the very first game. We saw just most recently in Nations League when Kyle Larin wanted to bank the first half hat-trick that he conceded the ball to Kyle. As far as him wanting to be a poacher, wanting to be that mentality of, like, I'm the guy you want with the ball on my foot, is that one constructive criticism that he needs to kind of grow as a player right now? Yeah,
it's a good point, Kels. It's an unusual trait with strikers, humility. It's a very unusual trait because you have to have that confidence, of course. Playing with various strikers that I would have been certainly across the course of my career, the team wins and they're still upset because they haven't scored the goal or scored the winning goal or whatever it would be. And maybe, I mean, we looked at, obviously, when they played against Belgium in the World Cup when Alphonso Davies took the penalty and he should have taken it. And then, of course, Kyle Larin. If you have that ruthlessness about you, have that streak within you, Julian, you want to score at all costs. And maybe that is a criticism, but maybe he feels as though I can be laid back. I'm still going to score goals. I've still got confidence in myself. But I would like to see him, if there is a penalty shot to be, grab the ball, Julian, go and get it and have that confidence and have that maybe stature within certainly the Canada camp and certainly with his next step wherever he goes to from Lille.
Well, he's proving it at Lille. I mean, he scored 6 PKs in the league and, throughout all competitions, 7. So So he's proving it, and you see him counting the numbers every time he scores. So he's sending a message out there that he should be taking that penalty shot, but it's up to him as a striker. And to your point, Kev, where the number 9s we've played with in the past, they've always been about themselves. They've always been, I'm going to take this no matter what. And we've seen fights and going back and forth. I think Jonathan David is maybe a bit too nice for a number 9. And I think for the national team, bullied off the ball 3 times with Cavallini, Alphonso Davies.
Right.
And Kyle Larin.
Yeah.
I think that the next time there's a PK and he's on that field, it needs to be him, and he needs to be the main man, because that's a sign that scouts will be looking at. If they're going to sign a number 9, that's going to be a killer in front of the goal.
Yeah.
It's going to come down to moments like that as well, and I think that's just something he needs in his personality, and it will mature when he makes that move to a bigger club.
And we shall see when that time comes this summer, because so far, I mean, when he was in Belgium, he conquered Belgium as part of the club league there. And in France right now, the opportunity to win a Golden Boot, cement his name as a Canadian, like dethroning the likes of Mbappe, Lacazette, like to have his name join that list would just be absolutely incredible.